Hello everyone, this is Spring Porter with Spring Solutions LLC. In today's video, I thought would discuss working from home as an unclaimed funds locator in the middle of this corona pandemic and how this could potentially disrupt or disturb your at-home business while all this stuff is still unfolding. And in addition to that, I wanted to sort of go over the state's two of the state's websites pertaining to bankruptcy in Maryland specifically, and then the Eastern District of Virginia, just to show you how to maneuver through the site, what information is on here, how it's helpful, and how pretty much they're all different per state. So again, let's preface the video with I'm not an attorney. This is not legal advice. I am just giving you basic information on bankruptcy court websites and just my feelings, my takeaways on working from home during this pandemic. If you are in need of an attorney or legal representation, please do your research in your local area. Find an attorney that can help you with any kind of legal case you have. So that being said, right now I'm on the U.S. Bankruptcy Court District of Maryland. I go to this site a lot. I have shown this website a lot in several videos, but I have not gone through and just sort of kind of shown you what is actually here. There's a wealth of information on here. And since first topic is, this pandemic that we're all sort of seeing unfold, this coronavirus, it could potentially affect your at-home business, especially if you're an unclaimed funds locator and you're dealing with the courts, whether it be bankruptcy court or whether you're dealing with state court funds. You need to go to those websites, either the state court website or the federal court website in the state that you're in for bankruptcy, and determine how the virus is affecting your jurisdiction. In some areas, it may be closing. You may have limited hours. You may have less staff. Certain departments may not be operating at the full capacity because of the way that this thing is unfolding. So you want to make sure that you're checking those sites. For Maryland right now, UPS is still running, FedEx, all of the normal court procedures and the mailing is all still open. Schools, however, have been closed for 2 weeks. So if you are an at-home worker, you are now, if you have children, they're going to be at home with you. So right off the bat, that is going to affect the way that you are working. When you have kids, you're going to have to allocate and prioritize your time, between work and your kids, if you don't have a babysitter. So anyway, just know that this is something that is going to affect you to one degree or another. The good thing about all this is you can still find leads. You can still call people. You can call them at home. Maybe some people are going to be working at home for 2 weeks. You could potentially reach more people at home. The downside to this is if the courts are closed, you're not going to be able to get your applications to the court because they're going to be limited people or maybe no people there to handle the processes or to cut your checks. So that could pile up on that end, but on the other hand, at least you have more, leads. So that's sort of the good thing in all of this. For right now, in the District of Maryland, if you go to this website, the first thing that you see here is sort of a current operational status of, the U.S. Bankruptcy Court in Maryland during this pandemic. So if you click here, and again, every state is different. For Maryland, it's basically just giving you basic information here. And it's saying that, they're closely monitoring the virus and they're following all recommended guidelines for the CDC and for the Maryland Department of Health. It doesn't appear that anything has closed. They're sort of limiting, here it looks like they're limiting the traffic for certain people that are having to go to court for certain hearings. For the debtors, I think they're just saying maybe have the attorneys go as opposed to the debtors going to certain hearings. So they're trying to limit the traffic. It looks like maybe send affidavits along with motions so that you can avoid actually having a hearing. So certain additional documents you can submit in lieu of going to a court hearing. Maybe a telephone appearance would be sufficient to the judge as opposed to appearing in court. So other things are happening here. Um, this was issued March the 12th. So this is pretty accurate for right now, unless things change. Obviously, you're going to have to, keep coming back to this, or maybe just go to, your source of media that you trust to give you the updated information. But this is here again. Everything is still operating, but this could change. So just keep that in mind. So on this website as a whole, there's a plethora of lots and lots of different types of documents here and information. The first thing you can click are the local rules. Again, as I've stated in previous videos, bankruptcy is a federal code with federal rules and procedures. However, each state has adopted their local rules, and this is it. This is 250 pages. It's very detailed. It was revised in February the 19th. So you can save this to your desktop if you work in Maryland a lot, or whatever state that you're in. You can download their local rules so you always have them. It has a forward here on the bankruptcy rules in general, how they're applied, and then it has sort of the parties. You have the court addresses. Maryland has one district, but there are two divisions. So there's a Baltimore clerk, and then there's a Greenbelt clerk or courthouse. And it appears that Baltimore has a bigger division because there are more judges and maybe more filings that happen in the Baltimore division. So here are the judges' names. We have the clerk of court, which is Mark Neal in the state of Maryland, the chief deputy operations, director of operations. We have a scheduling fee for how to file certain things. Motions, some motions you have to pay for, like if you're reopening a case, or just the chapter 7 and 13 in general, how much things cost. The office hours are here. And again, if you want to drop things off, there's a drop box for documents, I suppose, or payments. That would need to go here. Telephone numbers for the clerk's office. You have even a number for Pacer if you're filing things online. Again, a previous video I discussed the difference between the chapter 7 and 13 trustees and then the U.S. trustee themselves, or it's different even though they're called trustee. At any rate, there's the name, number, and address of those particular trustees. And here again, chapter 13 trustees, a telephone number, address. And then if you go further down, you'll see all the rules for the petitions themselves, the filing fees, how things should be listed. Everything is on here. A dismissal of a case. I mean, you can read everything. There's disclosure statements, compensation of professionals. That would be, the compensation for attorneys, like what is allowed, what is the fee for a trustee, how do they get paid. All of this is in here. Claims, objections. You can go all the way down. Obviously, this is sort of a resource that you can use, not meant to be read, maybe all the way through unless you want to. You can sort of just use it as a glossary type thing or a reference. You go in, you're looking for one particular thing, and you find it and you go to that page. So maybe save this if you're, working in Maryland. Just know that this is here. If you're wanting to know a local rule, go here. Pacer, the link for Pacer is here, and the link for ECF. Now, the difference between the two, Pacer is when you're trying to find things that are already filed in the court and you're wanting to retrieve those documents. It's Pacer. ECM or ECF and CM is for actually filing documents with the court. You have something that you want to file, like a claim, a motion, you need to file it with the ECM, CM. So some people use these interchangeably. They are slightly different. Some people have different logins for that. Some people have the same. It just depends on what's going on. But again, this is where you find information and you file information. There's electronic filing information. What login do I have? How to reset a password here for ECO. There's so much information that's here. There's a manual here. If you're new and you don't know how to use ECF or CM, there you go. It tells you what to do, how to file things. It's all here. How to file claims or upload claims. There is a lot of things here. All right. So let's go back. Oh, no. I thought I saw something here. Yeah, I'm gonna look at this because it says creditor's preferred address. And this is what I wanted to show you as to why there are unclaimed funds in bankruptcy. It's because the creditors do not file this with the court. When their address changes or they move to a new location, they're supposed to notify the court, and they don't do that. So the court will issue a check and they'll send it to an old address because of this one little lovely paper that's not been filed in. So just so you know, these are the types of documents that are here. You can kind of go in. There's a landlord-tenant instructions on what to do if someone's filed bankruptcy and they, you're a landlord, they owe you money. There's certain steps that you need to do for that. Attorney Wi-Fi, bankruptcy removal manual. I mean, hey, all of this stuff is here. So if you keep going down, there are certain hearing dates. This is typically used for attorneys here. As a funds locator, you're not going to have to set hearings. That's typically for attorneys. There's a public calendar. If you are maybe a funds locator and you're trying to figure out, sometimes in certain jurisdictions, you may have to have a hearing with that application for unclaimed funds if there's a discrepancy, or if maybe that's just their local rule and you're trying to figure out what it is, you would have to come here and search for a court hearing. I guess you can allocate it for all hearings, court hearings, 341 hearings. Again, a lot of information here. Again, here is the specific divisions. There's one in Baltimore, there's one in Greenbelt. This section down here is typically just the local rules and procedures that have changed. There's usually like a little memo or something attached to this, or an article that you can read on. There's certain vacancies in the courthouse if you're looking for a job that are here. Certain rules pertaining to the IT, about being cautious for email links and attachments, that sort of thing. There even is a link here for unclaimed funds because they've changed the local rules in Maryland, or the paperwork at least, starting December the 1st, 2019. So there's a new application that was just created in Maryland for this. So that was listed here. And it's just a lot of information listed in this general section here. Now, if we go up here to this sort of maroon colored tab or line, we'll have understanding bankruptcy. I did a previous video pertaining to chapter 7 and 13, sort of a one-on-one on understanding the two. I got a lot of those definitions from here. There's a glossary of bankruptcy terms. There's certain other resources, a reference library, if you will, for the bankruptcy code in general. If you click on Title 11, which is the bankruptcy code, it's going to give you all of the long, procedures and the rules of the code in each chapter in it. And then you have bankruptcy judges and the judicial procedure in general. There's a lot. This is the code. This is all the information you need. This is sort of Maryland-related information. The U.S. District Court of Maryland, the Bankruptcy Bar Association for Maryland, like lawyers here in Maryland. If you needed that, let's not click that. I don't really need that. I'm just showing you what all is here. Governs property rights for Maryland. There's garnishment law in Maryland, things that are pertaining to collections in regard to the state of Maryland. So there's a lot of information here. Office of U.S. Trustee. There's American Bankruptcy Institute. There's a lot of links that you can get information on. There's court information. There's a case statistics. That's always a hard word for me to say, statistics. But case filings from 2000 to present. If you're wanting to know how many cases have been filed in 2020 in January, or maybe how many have been discharged, I believe. Well, it says total filing. So maybe how many cases have been filed since January? And this is only January listed for right now. They haven't filled these in. The total filings is 1,337. It looks like it was 821 that was filed in January. 507 cases for Chapter 13. It looks like, people doing that holiday spending, and some of them end up in bankruptcy court. Yeah, so this is for January, and you can just, if you're interested, you're doing a school project or something, maybe that's beneficial to you. So yeah, you can check the statistics. You can check the court directory for all case administrators, director of operations, division manager, There's a director of IT, financial specialist. There's a lot of people here. A previous video I did on contacting the judge's chambers. Another person that I actually could have contacted was probably the case administrator. If you go to Pacer, ECF Pacer, and you're searching for a document, at the top of the list, you will see like the name, the address. You'll also find somewhere near the top the case administrator. So you'll be able to, call them and email. If you click on this name, it'll give you an email address, and you can email them your questions about the case. Now that's something that I could do, and I'll probably will have to do that tomorrow because on Friday I was following up and I had to leave messages. So that's another person that you can call pertaining to your case if you have a question on unclaimed funds. So there's court hours and holidays. It tells you when it's open, what holidays they're closed for. If there's inclement weather, you can call the number and find out. That's for people, obviously attorneys and debtors who are trying to go to court. There's court locations here. There's certain divisions, the counties served. There's just so much here. So if you say you can't find information, I'm sure if you come to this site and you search in the search bar engine, you'll be able to find what you need. If you don't want to click through all this, just use the search engine, okay? But this is a good thing to have. Medium creditors location, suggestions. There's so many things here. This one says for attorneys only. So here, what they need to file, what their manual is. This is the judge's information. It'll give you the judge's name, right? So resources for debtors, before you file, after you file, what you're supposed to do. A lot of people file bankruptcy without an attorney, and so here it gives them information. Filing, pro se, it gives them certain resources, the tax information. So there's a lot here. This one's interesting. You can be a bankruptcy petition preparer without working in an attorney's office. And this right here is a list of people that have prepared, but they didn't do something right. So there's an injunction against them. And it tells the case and the date. And the judge has sort of prohibited them from acting as a petition preparer. I thought that's interesting. That's here. So yeah, there is a lot of information. Again, the filing fees. It talks about the privacy of a social security number, how you're supposed to redact the number, maybe just keep the last four. Again, your unclaimed fund locator, you already know that this is here because I've mentioned that before. There's credit reporting information. It looks like that is to be updated because nothing is, the page is not found, so they have to fix that. There's credit counseling agencies. There's so much on here. Programs and services. There's electronic proof of claim filing, ADR, alternative, dispute resolution for people dealing with alimony and child support, family law type things, or maybe just regular civil, litigation within the bankruptcy and people are trying to come to a resolution. So that detailed information is here. So this is what you have. This is all listed here. There is a lot of information that you can find without calling someone all the time. Sometimes you have to do your own research and not expect other people to sort of spoon feed it to you. You have to do your own research here. So this is here. That's this one state. That's the state of Maryland. Let's go to the Eastern District of Virginia. See how different this looks. Whole nother district, whole nother jurisdiction. In the state of Maryland, we saw that they were limiting traffic in court because of the coronavirus. Let's see in the Eastern District of Virginia, that is, what is happening here. So there is an order temporarily suspending Section 341 meetings of creditors in all divisions. Okay, so the court has, and this is their standing order. All right, so it says, yeah, they are actually temporarily suspending all 341 hearings in this district um, until March the 31st, right? So you know that the court doesn't appear to be closed. It's just this particular hearings, because there are a lot of 341 hearings. They're gonna dismiss them, until the end of the month. So that's something that you should know. Um, and let's continue on. Let's just see. Again, that's just an order with specific detail and specific language signed by the judge on, closing, limiting the hearings for here for a certain period of time. So that's all that we see. I don't see that it has been closed per se. It looks like the clerk's office is still open for business. So if you were filing applications, still submit them. Still do your process as an unclaimed funds locator. This is just specific for the 341 meeting. And I have a previous video in which I talk about 341 meetings for Chapter 7s and 13s and how those are usually a month after the date of filing. That only pertains to people that have filed bankruptcy and their attorney. As a funds locator, you don't need to know about that. But it is important to know, like, hey, this is where I can find the information if I need it. So the Eastern District of Virginia, this is just one district in Virginia. There are other ones. Alexandria is a division that they have. I think Virginia has 3, if I'm not mistaken. They have like a Western district, I think a Northern district. So there are a few here. And whereas Maryland had 2 divisions with Baltimore and Greenbelt, they have 4. They have Alexandria, Norfolk, Richmond, and Newport News. And so you can click on, depending on which division you're in, you can click on that and find their hours of operation, the clerk's mailing address. So if you're mailing in an application for unclaimed funds and you're wanting to know who to mail it to, make sure you come to this site and just kind of check and see what goes where. So filing requirements are up here. You have Chapter 7, 11, 12, all the chapters are here in which there's filing information or requirements listed. Finding legal help, electronic filing. So here you can also find the link to this jurisdiction here for ECF Pacer. You have password recoveries, Pacer just for researching information. Let's see if I can click. Yeah, that's the information. And if I wanted to check the website, you click on website and it'll bring you here and you'll log in. And it says the system is currently undergoing maintenance. So there's a lot of it's Sunday. That's probably when they usually do that. Because not a lot of people may be working at this time on here. So again, this is different than the state of Maryland, but there's a lot of information on here as well. There's certain bankruptcy forms that you need. Amendments, appeals, attorney information for local form, certificate of services, all types of affidavits, you name it, it's here. Waivers of some sort, exhibit forms, garnishment paperwork, it's all here. Orders. Again, if you were an unclaimed funds locator, you would type unclaimed funds in the search engine or anything for that matter, and you would be able to pull it up a lot faster as opposed to just going through here and clicking things. I'm just doing this so that you can see what are the categories here. Judges' dates and hearings. There's a public calendar for things that are filed on the ECF, CM Pacer. Court resources, there's filing fees, mailing register, opinion, standing orders from the judges, transcripts, local rules. Here are the local rules for this district. The one in Maryland was listed here, and then this one is listed here. let's see how many pages this was 179 pages, so less pages. Maryland was 250, this one's 179. But there's similar information that's listed. You know, there's filing fees, there's dismissals, motions to extend time to file something. Everything you need to know pertaining to local rules is here. All right. So that's good to know if you're wanting to know where to look, where to go. There's even an email address on local rules. If you have a comment or something, you could send it here. And they update it periodically whenever there's a new rule, a new local understanding of something. They'll update the local rules with an amendment and they'll put it here. It looks like this one was just updated or posted February the 20th. There's the bankruptcy fraud hotline. Again, remember the U.S. trustee is looking for fraud. Anyone can report bankruptcy fraud to the trustee. And the hotline and information is there. Here's the bankruptcy code itself. Again, there's different ways of finding this. This is U.S. trustee program. Contact us, email contacts, court locations. And these looks like these emails are just for maybe the clerk's office. Here's upcoming court closings. If you click home, it'll bring you back to the main screen. It even has the most commonly used section here. Unclaimed funds is listed here. It's at the bottom. So yeah, this is the Eastern District of Virginia. This is where you go to find information in this district. Every state is different. So this is helpful for, again, anyone who's trying to figure out what is on this site. What am I looking for? What am I doing? You can search this for anything. If you wanted to look for motions, maybe a motions template. Maybe you could find one. Here are the local rules on motions. Motions for relief. This is like hearings. This is certain hearing dates about the motions. There's older posts. I mean, all of this information is here. You could always check bankruptcy forms and look for motions under here if you're looking for it. Here it is. That's an order of judgment. So there's orders here. There are disclosure statements. Chapter 13 and related motions. So there are certain, this is the plan itself. Your pro se filer, you would need to come here. Instructions for deposit unclaimed funds, all this is here. Notice in motion. So here's a sample notice of motion, or if you want to file an objection. In the state of Maryland, or in the state of Virginia, the Eastern District, this is what they use. This is the form that they recognize. So you would fill this in pertaining to, you know, what you needed to do. So information is here if you need it, depending on what you want. There's basic bankruptcy information. Again, so much on here. So just know that there's information that you can find. You don't always have to, again, you don't always have to go and call someone. Try to do your own research first. Because it'll probably unfold when you're looking through this. So again, different states, different rules, sort of the same bankruptcy code. And even during this coronavirus, there's different local procedures on how they're handling that even. The state of Maryland, they still have 341 hearings, but certain hearings, they're saying the debtors don't have to come, just the attorneys, and they're giving them the option, the attorneys the option of kind of phoning in instead of maybe appearing in court. And then in the Eastern District of Virginia, it looks like 341's hearing, they just cut it off, so that's not available to anyone. You could still file bankruptcies, you could still file your applications for unclaimed funds, at least in these two districts that I can see, because I don't see anything saying not to or that it is closed. So that is good to know. This is how I believe the coronavirus is, still unfolding. Obviously, there'll be more updates in the future, but for right now, this is what we're dealing with in terms of, working from home in this particular business. So I hope this was helpful. I hope these sites were helpful to you. Please get familiar with your own jurisdiction, your own state website. Go through it, click on things, see how things work, see who you need to call, look for unclaimed funds in that area so you can get familiar with who the parties are, who you need to contact. I hope this was helpful to you, and until the next video, I will speak to you next time. Thank you.